And Brown Eyed Girl was my first karaoke song ever. Yeah. So tonight I was trying to think of what to tell. I've never told before, and I wasn't really sure. I don't really have 99 problems, but I'm going to tell a story about a person that I know that had 99 problems and ended up teaching me a lot about family in the process. So I'm going to take you back to the wonderful year of 1989. I was 12 years old, and I finally made a really good friend after moving to South Carolina, so almost as far away from Fargo as you can possibly be. This friend, Frank, so let me, I'm telling this part of the story to make sure that you guys understand just how tight we were. We played a 2-person game of Dungeons and Dragons for a year together before we ever brought anyone else into it. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. That's how tight this is. So thankfully, after about 3 years, we started to make several other friends outside the relationship, and that was good. Along comes this girl named Henrietta Holmes. And Henrietta Holmes was initially my problem. Tell you the kind of guy I was as a teenager at 15. I waited for her boyfriend to go into the hospital for treatment for a serious disease before I made my move. That's who I was at 15. I'm not that guy anymore, I promise. I'm not. But, everyone has a time when they do stuff like that, I guess. I hope. So in any case, we lasted for about 3 months until I realized the most important thing in her life was to get pregnant with someone who could support her for the rest of her life. And so I dropped her like a hot mic. And of course, Frank saw his opening, so he kind of moved in. And that was about 6 months before college. They were together for 6 months. And Frank, his uncle was a nurse. Only thing he ever wanted to be was a nurse. And he went to college for that, and we lasted about 6 weeks until Henrietta called him and told him she was pregnant. And South Carolina is a pretty religiously conservative state. Everyone was clapping and laughing and shouting that he decided to stay with her. In the meantime, me and Frank's mom are in the back room of this church telling him, if you want to walk out, we can go right now. But no, I mean, he's a guy, so my family, we never met a problem we couldn't throw money at and get rid of, but he was not that way. He's not that well off. And so, he decided to stick with it. And he has a wonderful son who just graduated college. I'm a little jealous. My children are 8 and 4. His child is 22 now and graduating college, and he's free. But, he had to drop out of school. He flunked out. He tried to stick with it for a year, and it just wasn't working after the kid was born, and it was tough for him. And he ended up having to drop out of college, and it took him 6 years to appeal for academic forgiveness before he could get back. So that was problem number 22 or 23. And so what ended up happening during that time is he, thank God he had his family to fall back on, because they basically ended up, when his child was young, raising him for a lot of the time, because Frank and I were just getting together every weekend and getting completely blitzed. And so neither one of us was fit to help raise that kid. But in any case, that kind of all came together, and Frank ended up getting back into school, and not too long after he was about to graduate or after he graduated college, and he finally achieved that dream of becoming a nurse. I had kind of fallen out of touch with him by then, and I ended up just deciding to call him one day. I think I'd just gotten a cell phone. That's kind of the age group I'm in. And I was excited, and I decided to call him. And I ended up calling him on the day of his uncle's funeral. So the guy that inspired him to become a nurse, I ended up calling him. And, this is kind of the beginnings of Facebook, and his uncle had a Facebook page. And so I had titled my story "In the Land of the Facebook Zombies." I'm a little bit into The Walking Dead. Apparently that's a sign you live in North Dakota, according to New York Times anyways. But I called him, and his uncle had just died, and this is, I skipped several problems. This is probably problem number 88 or so. The reason I titled the story that is because this family is so tight that his uncle is actually a Facebook zombie. He's still out there. He gets birthday wishes every year. It's really touching, but that, growing up in a family that really didn't have many problems, having a friend like that taught me a lot about what it was like to have problems and how you deal with them. And that's it.